Welcome to TV Crew Talk. My name's Howie. My guest is Matt Wachtel. Matt, welcome to TV Crew Talk.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So we've been working together for about a year now. You've been training me, and I've seen such awesome results. So I can't thank you enough.
You're very welcome.
We spend about 3 hours a week together for virtually like the last year.
We do this.
And so I have a lot of questions that, we really don't get to talk about because, you're a foodie, I love to eat.
This is true.
Although I come here to
all food isn't bad food.
we talk a lot about food.
Yes, we do.
So I have a lot of questions. One, let's start out with, you're a veteran.
I am.
What made you join the military? What branch of the military were you in, and what made you join the military?
Okay, I was 18 years old. I went into the Army. I was, let's see, my grandma and grandpa used to put it, you're going nowhere fast.
Uh-huh.
So I was getting into some trouble, and I needed structure. And, the suggestion was made to me probably 6 months before I made the decision. I told my dad, go take a hike. I'm not doing it. But he had said to me, even though I had gotten into college, I'm not paying for you to go party. Mm-hmm. So you better find something else to do. So an unfortunate circumstance where I ended up getting into some trouble in a fight had me scared to death of my father. And I didn't want to go home and tell him.
Okay.
So on the way home, to avoid him getting really angry with me, I said, you know what? I'm going to the military. I didn't know if it was the Army or the Marines. I just knew I was going into the military. So basically, I guess I made that decision because I was scared of my dad. And I went home. It was at nighttime. Never forget, I walked upstairs to his bedroom, and I said, Dad, I need to have a father and son talk, which meant I can say what I want, and I'm not going to get in trouble. I only used it for when I didn't want to get in trouble. So he said, what's up? I said, well, I've just been fired from my job. And he said, why? I said, I beat up one of the customers, and he started getting up out of his chair. I said, wait. He said, I'm going to go into the military. And he goes, really? So let's go tell your grandpa. So my grandpa and my grandma were basically like the matriarchs of my family. And everything was, you got to follow the footsteps of your grandfather. It's his last name. So we went to his house, and he was sitting in his office. And I said, Dad, Matt wants to tell you something. I said, Grandpa, I'm going to go into the military. He goes, I think that's great. I love it. This is this. My grandma comes down the stairs and says, what's all this commotion about? And I was standing right here. Here's the stairs, and my grandpa and my dad are there. And they go, Matt, tell her. I looked at her and said, Grandma, I'm going to go into the military. She looked at them, looked at me, smacked me across my face, and started running up the stairs and said, no Jewish boy, she called me a coward. She said, no Jewish boy goes and joins the service. And I went, and they said, relax, she'll love it. So that was the crossroads. And then I went to the recruiters, and I ended up picking the Army because I liked the way they sung their cadences better in marching. So 18-year-old kid, I didn't know where I really wanted. I just know I liked that. Fast forward, I did 3 years in the U.S. Army. I was a gunner on an M6 Bradley tank. I blew up aircraft, trucks, and troops. From that tank, Stinger missiles, machine guns. It was a fun job for a kid that just wanted to have some fun. And I needed structure.
So did you get that? What did the Army teach you in terms of discipline, structure?
Taught me all the above. It gave me a chance to either sink or swim without family involved. There was no one there to rescue me, so I had to follow the orders, of people that outranked me, and you had no choice. Mm-hmm. So it's either you listen or you get in trouble, and there's no, can I do this? So it gave me structure, and I excel in structure. If someone's in front of me and I have a task to do, and the better I do at it physically, and the faster I go up in ranks. For me, it was taught me how to be a man.
How do you apply that structure to your everyday life now?
Every day. Let's start with, I wake up at 0300. I wake up at 3 a.m. every morning, Monday through Friday. Normally, I turn off my alarm before I go. I'm never late anywhere. In the Army, we were taught if you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. I get here at 3:45. My first session's not usually until either 4:30 a.m. or 5:15, just because I want to get all my stuff out of the way. And the structure for me is once I hit the floor here, I'm every 45 minutes. And everybody comes in, I do my morning routine. It's a structure, it's a wake up. I come here, same thing every morning. I bring my dog, she gets fed. I go over all of the businesses. I do what I need to do for the day. As soon as I hit that floor, I'm going, to hit it hard. And I just try to bring that positive attitude, that structure, and that discipline with everybody that I'm training.
Now you might hear some noise in the background because we're in the gym.
We're in the gym.
Fitness here in New City. So there's people working out behind us.
That's what happens here.
Let's talk about how did you get into personal training?
So I mentioned that I was a little bit of a hard kid. So I was always grounded, when I was a kid. And the only thing I was allowed to do was go downstairs and lift weights. So my dad had an old set down there, and every day that I was grounded after school, I would do my homework, or say I did my homework, go downstairs and lift weights. And eventually I became very interested in it. I think I was doing it at the age of like 7. And I would look at magazines, I'd teach myself things. And then as I got into junior high, I guess people started coming over to my house and they were wanting to work out with me. So I would train them, not knowing that one day this hobby, this passion of mine could be my career. But they do say if it's, if you're having fun, then it's not really a job or it's your dream job. So that would go on, and then when I was 16, I think I got certified for the first time, maybe 17, I don't quite remember. And I was training people. People were paying me. I was going to their houses. Oh, wow. I would train them at their house, and then I'd teach some classes at a gym. When I got out of the service, I still continued. I excelled in the military with my physical training. It was always something I had a passion. I wanted to run the fastest 2-mile time. I wanted to do the most amount of push-ups in 2 minutes, sit-ups. And I developed a group that would, once we got to permanent duty, which means you're already a soldier, every day after work, some guys would take off their tops, their uniform, and they would start drinking.
Right.
I had like 4 or 5 guys with me who would come to my barracks. We'd take our supplements, we'd run. I think the gym was a mile from my barracks. We'd run to the gym, work out for 2 hours, and everybody would go listening to me. I led the workouts. We would, on the way home, we'd get our supplements, eat a protein shake, go to sleep. We did this every single day.
Right.
And so to me, again, as more of it was like a hangout, it was something that I loved to do. I was teaching people how to put muscle on their body, which in the military, that helps you. The stronger, the faster you are, the better shape you're in, you can make rank quicker. So it was just fun for me, and I just knew what I was doing. Fast forward, I got out of the Army. I was in corporate America.
Right.
I wore a lot of different hats. My family was in garments. My grandfather was the inventor of members only. So my family always was in garments. When I first got out of the Army...
So you come from a line of entrepreneurs.
Yes. And when I first got out, I was a carpenter in a union. So I would get up very early. I would either go to the gym, train people there, put on, whatever my clothes, drive into the city probably 2 hours earlier than I had to be because I didn't want to sit in traffic, wait outside my job site, and then I would go in, whether it was in the financial centers, I was in, furniture installer. But then, that job, kind of, I liked it, but, there's only so far you can go.
Right.
And then I was in corporate America doing sales. I worked in the warehouse. I worked for my father. He stuck me inside of a warehouse where nobody spoke English, and I did not speak any Spanish. I didn't take Spanish in school. Right. So we started with hand signals. I taught them English. They taught me Spanish. Now I can get by anywhere speaking Spanish. But my dad started me from the bottom up. He said, you're going to learn this job, and I'm going to treat you worse than I treat anybody because you're my son.
And how did that help you? How did that help you grow?
I still think about those lessons every day. It helped me grow because it made me work harder. Mm-hmm. So I know I was representing my father, and the other workers were watching me, and I wanted to climb the ranks. Just like in the Army, I wanted to go up in ranks. Right. So he started me in each section. I then became the manager of the warehouse of all distribution. Eventually, me and my father it was a bad story that we kind of got set up by some people after we went into business. We then went into business on our own. Okay, I became the sales, bringing in the accounts for the garments. We found a place that my father would run the operations in the background, the distribution. The job was that I was to go and get the customers to convince them that I will ship your goods for you, and you'll pay me to do it. So
Right.
a lot of people don't want to own their own warehouses. I'd put on a suit, go to the city every day, sit in the garment districts. I would sit in bars. I would listen to conversations. And as I would hear something that I thought was my time to jump in, I would jump in. I would talk to him. I'd make friends. And eventually, back then we didn't have all this phone stuff. It was business cards.
Right.
I would give them a business card. I'd say, I really don't want to interrupt you, but I own this third-party distribution center. Maybe you and I.
Right.
They gave me their business card. I'd write down when they would tell me to call them. I'd walk around with a stack of business cards every day. I'd get to my desk. This guy said to call on this date. I would call, and until they told me stop calling, whatever, I would continue, and I would get the person on the phone. I used to go to the Javits Center.
That's a great
all the
lesson,
shows.
right? To tell people never give up.
Don't give up until they say stop.
Right.
It's just like a sign that's on the door. When I used to go door to door here, I went door to door for another business I had in staffing. The sign says no soliciting. They tell you that, oh yeah, okay, but I just want to drop this off. Okay, maybe they'll say, please get out of here, don't come back. But you gotta always go, and or else you never know. So the first account I ever landed, it was a company called Crawlers. It was baby clothing. I was in the Javits Center. I was walking around, and same thing. I would go to a booth, take a card, introduce myself, make my phone calls next week, but I would continue until I would throw that card out because they told me to stop. There was a gentleman, fast-speaking Israeli man by the name of Adam Newman. He owned this company called Crawlers Baby Clothing. He would say, you and your father, you stick with me, we're going to be very good. I used to go out with him. We used to entertain. Eventually, that business, I ended up changing. But Adam Newman used to say to me, just stick with me, kid. One day I'm going to be very successful. He was the owner and creator of WeWorks.
Oh.
He was my first client ever that I got. And then he owned a baby clothing company. This is years ago. He still owes me money, by the way. So fast forward to that. There was a lot of different jobs, so I don't want to bore you to death. I mean, the last one that I had while I was still doing training on the side was I was a recruiter on Wall Street. So I was working at a staffing agency. I walked into someone's office in a suit, and the gentleman who owned the company said, what is it that you're doing? I said, we have staffing, we're doing this.
Right.
Just come sit down. I want to talk to you. He goes, I like the way you speak. I said, okay. He goes, you see that? There was an open area like this, but just open and a bunch of desks, no dividers, and people are throwing resumes across from each other. And he goes, you see that guy right there? I go, yeah, he was in a tank top. So that guy made $1 million last year. I go, yeah? And he goes, that guy made 600. I go, doing what? He said, doing what you do, but on the phone. I go, okay. I talked to my wife, and he said, hey, I think I'm going to do this. I'll still do my training. The day that I sat at that desk is the day Bear Stearns went out.
Oh.
Okay, so I was a recruiter for Wall Street and finances. The banking, that's when the collapse was.
Right,
Bear Stearns
2008.
goes out.
Yeah.
All these banks start going, I'm hustling. I'm grabbing everybody's files into place to, one, see if there's new people that I can reactivate, whatever. I'm the biggest hustler in there. That guy that made $1 million the year before made $20,000 that year. This guy made nothing. Right. I was making $286 every 2 weeks after a draw with my health insurance, and nobody was hiring. So I remember saying to my then father-in-law, I think I'm going to do this training thing full time. He said,
how did you pivot that into the gym?
So, with, I guess, all the sales, I learned all of my sales skills and business skills, as they say, in the street.
Right.
Learning by doing. I was never very good at classwork.
Failing forward.
Yeah. Yes. So that I learned from my failures. You obviously can't be afraid to fail because you'll always be, you'll never get to the next level. So I took all of that experience, and at first I was just going to be a trainer, but I wanted to be the best trainer. I wanted to be the busiest, and I was driven. I had 2 kids at home, and I had to do something. And my wife at the time was a stay-at-home mom. So my first goal I remember was $500 a week, and then fast forward 3 months, I became the most sought-out trainer in Rockland County. Everywhere I went, I marketed myself. If I was going, I try to teach these trainers today, there is no, roof on this ceiling. You have, if you want to do it, this is not a big warehouse gym, you want to make yourself busier, market yourself.
Right.
Everywhere you go. I'd go out to a restaurant, and same thing, I'm sitting at a bar, I'm in good shape, wear some clothes, you start speaking to someone, boom, they become a client. I'm on the golf course.
Right.
And I remember one time someone said, hey, how much for those calves? And I said, I'll see you tomorrow. became. Then there's
Right.
the whole celebrity aspect of it. But I took what I learned from going door to door and speaking to people into growing my personal training business, because that was the first business I had, was just personal training in this gym.
Okay.
Okay, then I wanted to buy this gym. And I was in a situation where if I walked out of these doors, the gym closed. So I said to the gentleman that owned it, I want to buy you out. Unfortunately, at that time, he couldn't because he had some financial issues. So I said, okay, then in order for me to stay, you're going to take a seat back. You're going to sit in that office. I'm going to invent my own company, create my own company. I'm going to hire a bunch of trainers, and I'm going to pay you rent based on the business that I draw. I closed down a gym, brought a bunch of trainers in here. Now I start turning this into more. I have 10, 15 trainers working for me. Now, at first, this gym was bare bones. I added a lot of stuff, but there was no medical services. There was none of that. So I was doing, pretty well for myself. And I always wanted to see what the next step would be. This is what separates me from the other gyms. Right now, if just looking at this place, it's too small to be called a warehouse gym, too big to be called a studio. So I'm a niche. I'm a boutique spot.
Right.
The warehouse, if you like a warehouse gym with a bunch of people in here screaming and that, you're not going to like this place. Being prior military, I keep my place spotless, as you know.
Right. Absolutely.
Everything here, and the same thing I treat my staff, it's like military. You're never late for your shift. You better always be early. You better come in with a smile. You better be dressed right. There's no hats indoors. There's no earrings. You come in, everybody's in the same uniform. I'm very big on that. Now what's next? Medical. People are adding medical services to stuff. I see doctors' offices, and I think I was maxed out. I'm like, God, so hard. You get a couple of members, that adds a little bit to your top line. You get more trainers that have a book of business, and then that adds to the top line. But how can I make this?
How can you make it one-stop shop?
One-stop shop is what I wanted to create, an a la carte service. First thing I did was bring in a chiropractor. Okay. I liked it. We were accepting cash at first. Now, it's nice. It was definitely a jump. I was having some extra money at the end of the month, and my job was, you sit in your office. I am going to build a business for you. What's the matter? Your back hurts? Oh, come in. We'll take you right into the chiropractor. It was perfect, because I'm out there on the floor selling my services, but now I have another service to sell. So after now, and by the way, it's beneficial for you, after you've done training with me, great. Now you can go get another service. You can get adjusted. You don't have to go somewhere else. Now you have it.
Right.
Then someone said, you got to get into this acupuncture thing. Acupuncture? What's acupuncture? I said, they stick needles. I go, you want me to convince people to stick needles in them? That's going to be a hard sell, but you know what? I'll try it.
Right.
Before I know it, I have one acupuncturist that I bring in here. I asked them, how much money do you make? He said this. I said, okay. I ended up tripling what they made. I said, how about you become a partner? I'm going to be a management company. I'm going to manage your practice. You're going to come in here and do what it is you do. Nothing else. Now, no offense, but not all doctors are businessmen.
Right.
They know what they're doing in there, but they don't have sales. They don't have the gift of gab. They don't know how to talk. So I said, you come in here, do your job. I'm going to take care of all your back office. I'm going to do your billing. I'm going to have a biller. You do your stuff. You hand me the paperwork. I'm the liaison between you and the biller. I'll make sure that everything gets in. I'll manage the money as it's coming in.
Do the stuff they don't want to do.
The stuff they don't want to do, and they're not, I don't want to say good at, but they have to be able to do what they're doing, not be out there and try to get business in.
Right.
So now we're accepting insurance. And I wanted to find out which insurances pay the most money. So I did. And then I would go to that company through the whole knock on the door, do this, don't leave until they say no. And it would take a long time. People wouldn't call me back. Then I'd have to find the right person to speak to. So I started with the police officers because they have great insurance. I got into a PBA meeting. Just like we're talking, I would get in front of them, speak at their meeting. I only need 5-10 minutes of your time, maybe bring them in dinner.
Right.
And I would tell them exactly what I have in the gym, what I have to offer. And now we have these new services. And, you should come in and try it. One comes in, so one person's happy.
One brings another.
The best marketing is word of mouth. It's always been for me. And, people say, how did you hear about me? Well, I saw your commercial, but then I saw the sign in front. So it's the more obviously you speak. So now I'm targeting the right companies. The acupuncturist is happy. We got business flowing in, which then pours into people want gym memberships. Now these people want to train. So it was good for the whole business.
Right.
So then I brought in 2 acupuncturists. The next business was pain management. I had to find a pain management doctor which specializes in pain, and especially because this gym became the home of the Clarkstown Police, that these guys all have different types of injuries. They're wearing their gun belt, they have tendinitis, they have hip problems, they have shoulder problems, they're beat up, they're on their feet, they're sitting for too long. So now not only can they come in, and whether they want to train or not, they could get the acupuncture for their back or their legs, whatever it is. People use that for depression, anxiety, fertility, so many different reasons, and people love it. But now I'm saying I have a double board certified pain management doctor where we do everything from natural anti-inflammatories, regular inflammatories, steroid, nerve blocks, epidurals. So I had to learn a lot about this business, but since I've been in weightlifting my whole life, getting injuries, I'm not a doctor, but I can diagnose somebody in a second. And then I would go into the office with the doctor with their injuries. We would do ultrasound guided injections. So I learned more of being in the room with them so I can be able to sell what we're doing. Because it's not just someone hands me a piece of paper. So now we got pain management, we got chiropractic, we have acupuncture. We always had a little bit of massage, but most recently we added medical massage. So now these same people that have the right insurance to do the acupuncture, to do the pain management, the trigger point injections, now they're accepted, they can get covered for massage. So people love that again. So it's like a big circle. You walk in, you can you work out, you get your acupuncture, sit in the sauna, get a massage. So now you have all those services. I had a spin room during COVID. It was doing great. After COVID, nobody wanted to do spin anymore. Now I have this beautiful room that I built out, and I got to figure out how to make money in that space because you only have so much space. So we had an idea. A lot of people that belong to this gym are members of country clubs. That's the kind of demographic that I target.
Golfing.
Yeah, golfing, or just people that don't want to be bothered by the big crowds. They don't mind spending a little bit more money. They're going to go somewhere that's clean. The owner, I'm present every Monday through Friday. I'm always here. I get involved, whether you're my client or not. I'm going to tell you what you're doing wrong, what you're not.
Yeah, I've seen you point out to people that you're training.
I just can't help myself. It's a passion. So now that all of this has filled in, everything is on the rise. The golf room, I say, let's put a golf room in there. And a TrackMan is what it's called. It's the best, virtual, program you can get. And now I convince a pro at one of the country clubs that I've been using for lessons for years. In the winter, why don't you come here? I built this beautiful room. You can give your lessons. When, people can also come, they can rent it out. They can play, it's snowing outside. You want something extra to do, you can come in. You rent the machine. You can play Pebble Beach while, having a cocktail or two with your friends. And it becomes social. But so now, to me in business, if you're in like a retail service, every space, every minute counts. So what can you do to maximize your space and your time? Arnold used to say, there's so many hours in a day. If you need more, sleep faster. So, I guess that's where we are today.
Now, as an entrepreneur, I know how COVID affected our business and how we pivoted because sports were shut down, events were shut down. So I had to learn a lot quick. And how do we still provide content for our clients? And we figured all that out. As a gym owner and a personal trainer, you need people here. So how did you figure that out, and what did you do?
It's a great question. So right when this happened, they told me I had to shut down my gym. Okay.
I remember.
Yeah. So the only thing that I was able to have, because it was health, was my acupuncture business. So I would come here at 3-something in the morning, open up by myself, do that. But I needed to still train my clients. So to me, I asked somebody, who said, hey, you want to try virtual? This is before anyone was doing virtual. I go, I can train you when I first got out of the military and I was going to people's homes, the space could be this big that I'm training you in. And they would say, well, I don't have equipment or anything. It's fine. I'll give you a military workout at first, but then eventually you'll add stuff. So during COVID, I would say, come on, try one. I went from 60 sessions a week to I think the first week I got 6 people to say, yes, I'll do a virtual session. Sit at my desk, started off with them and they would say, oh my God, this is crazy. I go, yeah, it's actually harder because you can't go to the bathroom. You're not walking down the track. You're not getting sips of water. I'm in your face watching you. And then I'd be like, okay, you have, because, stores were shut. You have a log in the house with firewood? People were using dog food, cans of soup. I said, get the piece of wood, get that. Watch. I would kill these people, which is what I love to do. In 45 minutes, they go, man, that was hard. And then they spread the word. I built my sessions up to, I think I was doing 50 virtual sessions a week at one point. And then I would try to teach my trainers how to do that, but some people aren't comfortable, with that. They feel like they have to be right in front of them. I mean, form is everything, but I can correct it whether I'm looking not even at you in a mirror that shows me an angle or online. I would just tell them, put the phone, in an area where I can see the floor and you. And and I can tell you, hey, I want you to stand sideways while you're doing deadlifts so I can see your form. Perfect. To this day, so that opened up actually, which I'm sure some of your stuff opened up more business opportunities.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
I am now have a virtual business that people that used to have to cancel, whatever, they'd be like, you know what, the babysitter didn't come. Virtual, yeah, no problem. Just give me 3 seconds. I go onto my computer, put my earpiece in, I'm training them. I used to, during COVID, probably doing 20 or 30 person free boot camps during COVID on Zoom. That's how I built a lot of the virtual business. I was like, listen, I'm going to do this for free,
right?
As I'm building my stuff. Yeah, and that turned into everyone. Obviously, they spoke about it, and best is word of mouth. But now I also can train people that I would never have been able to train because they don't live here.
Right.
Like, some of the celebrities and their kids that are pro athletes. I'm training people in Florida. People will now go on vacation. They take me with them.
That's awesome.
They go into the gym and they go, hey,
I think you need that on a shirt.
What?
I think you need that on a shirt.
That is pretty good. They take me with them on vacation. I like that. That's marketing. So as long as they'll take me into a gym at their hotel, at their resort, same thing. Put your earplug in, put me in a spot. I don't need a lot of space. I can train you anywhere. And I train them now when they're on vacations, even if, they're on the beach.
Right.
Or if they just now, my clients that are, busy with business that travel all the time, they don't want to stop their training while they're away, and they don't want to do it themselves. Because I used to just give people programs to go. But now, instead of programs, I say, yeah, just take me with you. They don't have to speak.
So one last question before we go. One thing that's important to me is I always try to give back to the younger generation just starting out in my industry. Not necessarily in your industry, but what kind of advice would you give to younger kids just graduating college, someone that has been in many businesses, started a great business? What advice would you give to younger people just starting out to be successful?
If any time is good, it's when they're young. Don't be afraid to fail. Go out there. If you believe in something, as long as you're not going to every time you're going to get knocked down, you got to get up. And you just drive, you learn from your failure. Best lessons in life are learned from failure, at least they were for me, is learn, adjust, move forward, and whatever works, keep going with that, but don't give up. If you give up, then you weren't meant to be an owner, or if it's too hard, you're going to work for someone for the rest of your life. So don't be afraid to fail.
Great.
Don't listen to the naysayers.
Exactly. Great advice. This has been TV Crew Talk with my guest and friend, Matt Wachtel. Thanks for joining us. And
thank you for having me.
Look forward to the next episode.
Thank you.